Okay, last week we went through some of the basic tenets of U.S. foreign policy, and I think in Obama's book he did cover a lot of them, starting from George Washington's farewell address, and then continue on through Monroe Doctrine. So I think he provided a great history of American foreign policy, and some of the tenets we mentioned, special terms in terms of internationalism, in terms of Cold War, in terms of multilateralism, or the international system being a multipolarity. We talk about containment policy as well. So all these terms here. But today we just want to look at some of the presidential doctrines. Okay, before the end of World War II, I think we can only ask, if we check American foreign policy, you can find only two doctrines, right? The first one was Monroe Doctrine. We discussed that last week about United States telling the European powers that, hey, we are not going to intervene in the internal affairs of Europe, and European power should not interfere in Western Hemisphere, in Latin America. So very clear. But the irony was what? United States was a much weaker power. It's almost like today, Taiwan said to China, saying, we are not going to interfere in your domestic affairs like Xinjiang or Tibet, Xizang. And in turn, China should not interfere in Taiwan's internal affairs. Okay? I don't know how much the power we have to intervene in the internal affairs, but we do. Okay? So this is the Monroe Doctrine. Latin America became the American backyard. When we talk about backyard, you have to understand a little bit of American residential area, right? In America, you see the residential, people's housing. In the front, you can see the lawn, right? Open, no problem. But backyard, you do have the fence. You have a little door, which is not that difficult to get in, but still, they somehow circle one area for their backyard. So backyard means where I can have some of my privacy. This is where I own the place. So Latin America was considered the American backyard under Monroe Doctrine. No other countries should intervene. That's Monroe Doctrine from 1823. And then in 1904, President Roosevelt added a corollary, means United States can actually intervene in Latin America. So Monroe Doctrine may be passive. Roosevelt corollary, we consider it to be an extension, more aggressive, more active policy toward Latin America, justify American intervention in Latin America, okay? Which, of course, you get Latin American countries pretty upset. Remember, America independence was an inspiration for a long time to Latin America. America got independence in the late 18th century, and then the Latin American country rebelled against Spanish rule in the early part of 19th century, and they gained their independence. But now America is almost like economic colonization of Latin America. So a lot of resentment. What did the American do? In 1930s, okay, President Roosevelt, he doesn't have a Roosevelt doctrine, but he did promote one policy in Latin America. Actually, something that we have a current adaptation in China. good neighbor policy. Okay. So what do we call in Chinese, in China right now? Hu Jintao is saying, oh, we are also doing this, right? 木林林是这样的吗？没有七吧？你看多少笔画 ？Okay, so 木林policy, toward Latin America in the 1930s. But United States always worry about, remember the word, containment, expansion of communism, expansion of left-wing government. So, containment, okay, always worry about expansion of left-wing government, especially in Latin America. So the book, Obama's chapter, gave you examples of how Americans, CIA, okay, Central Intelligence Agency, was involved in overthrowing a left-wing government in 1954 in Guatemala. In 1954, and then in 1961, after Cuba was taken by Castro, became a communist country, Kennedy supported some of the ex-Cuban soldiers trying to retake Cuba, which was we call a fiasco of the Bay of Pigs. Okay, Bay of Pigs fiasco. Now, Bay of Pigs, very difficult to write. 猪 right? I think it's this 罗 猪罗. I don't know why this 猪罗. Okay, Bay of Pigs fiasco of 1961. In 1965, President Johnson also sent Marines to Dominican Republic. So you have continue to have policies of aggressive, we call covert action sometimes. Sometimes it's almost like overt, covert and overt. Okay, now what's the difference here? Covert and overt. 古文家, what's the difference between covert and overt? Like right now, United States is trying to. Obama just announced last week when we are having class here. He announced about the, sending more troops to Afghanistan. Is that overt or covert? Overt or covert? What's the difference between covert and overt? Covert is almost like covered. So what does that mean? Secretly. Okay, covert means secret. So now, is that secret mission? No, I think we all learn about that. So it's overt. Covert would be something like not a lot of people knew. In 1954, United States also trying to overthrow, or no, not overthrow, okay, but in a way work against Chiang Kai-shek in Taiwan. If you follow any, some of the recent report about Sun Liren, okay, which a general who was under house arrest. 被房子绑住了，什么意思？ What does that mean? House arrest. 软禁. Okay, so Sun Liren was supported by the United States against Chiang Kai-shek. That was covert. Okay, there were a lot of covert action by the United States trying to overthrow government they consider either left-wing, unfriendly, or corrupt. Because of the corruption, right-wing corruption, that might lead to the collapse of the right-wing government and overtaken by the left-wing. So they try to get rid of, for example, the Wu's brother, but we don't pronounce as Wu, we pronounce as NGO. Okay, and people will say, "Oh, what is NGO? Non-governmental organization." I'm sorry, this is a Vietnamese Wu. Okay, and there are two brothers. One is Wu Ding Diem, and the other one is Wu Ding Nu. Okay. I think it's like this. Very difficult to write. Nu? Nu? What is Nu? How do you? Nu? 还有什么Nu？王这边 Can you think of any? Nu? Nu? Let me see whether I have it here somewhere. I don't think I have it here. I don't think I Wu Ting. Okay, I cannot remember. But anyway, these two brothers, the CIA got rid of them. Okay. So CIA was involved in a lot of covert action. The book also mentioned about Pinochet of 1973, getting rid of we call Allende. Democratic elected Salvador Allende as well. So this is toward Latin America, a lot of covert action, Bay of Pig, Cuba, but at the same time, Kennedy is saying, well, but we want to fight communism, but we also need to win the hearts of the Latin American people. So he proposed another policy which is going to help him to win the Latin American people. Roosevelt has good neighbor policy. Kennedy has we call Alliance for Progress. Okay, I think in Chinese we call 进步 something, 进步联盟. So at least this is one way trying to stop the spread of communism in Latin America. But most of the presidential policy after 1947, after the end of World War II, is about the area, the greater area of Middle East. So for example, the first one, the Truman Doctrine. Okay, Truman Doctrine was in 1947, and the United States tried to protect two countries from falling under communist rule. Okay, in the southeastern Europe, Greece and Turkey. Okay, so United States is committed in 1947, fighting against the expansion of communism, saying we will support democracy. Okay, against the fight against communism, especially in Western Europe. United States worry similar things like later in Southeast Asia. We call the domino theory. Right? So how many of you played dominoes in Taiwan before? like, or you have participate in a Guinness World Record game, like put up a lot of tiles, and then trying to have, remove one and then do domino, right? You understand domino? 骨牌效应. Or I think Tsinghua student probably should be very good in designing something. I remember seeing television commercial about a mouse, okay, taking something, and then you have the chain effects, just domino, and then eventually he started a car. The car engine was turned on, and then, was able to move. I don't know how many of you involved in this kind of game before, like starting from one little things, like maybe just a drop of a ball, and then started the chain effect of lots of things. Do you do that here in Tsinghua? Okay, my alma mater in the United States, Purdue University, every fall, in the beginning of the semester, we have some game about this, the design. People will do certain things, you can design something like you press one little button or little key on your computer and then start a chain effect. The printer prints something and then drops something, and then eventually, wow, the water in the bathroom turn up. You can take a shower. 试一次啊，下次玩玩这种游戏，蛮好玩的。啊，你们都不玩，你们是清华 ，You're Tsinghua student. You should design something like this. Okay, so that's what we call domino effect. Domino, not just pizza. Okay, there's something else. Okay, domino effect. 骨牌，哎，为什么我们不翻成骨牌披萨？达美乐，打了没？啊 ？Okay, so you understand domino theory now, and very important. So United States is preventing European countries after the Eastern Europe becoming communist, try to prevent the spread. So stop and helping especially Turkey and Greece. And this is where it leads to what? NATO. Do you remember NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO having Turkey and Greece as members. Think of this, right? NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And where is Greece from Atlantic Ocean? You can think of other members, Canada, United States, Great Britain, even France, Netherlands, Belgium. They are bordering Atlantic Ocean. But Turkey is part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But just trying to, again, to contain communism. Okay, so this is Truman Doctrine in 1947. Also trying to protect Western Europe with American support. We call Marshall Aid. I know Marshall has a very bad name in Taiwan, don't you think? Secretary of State Marshall, in our history book, bad guy. 你们还记得吧？马歇尔国务卿。Oh, because of his intervention, mediation, communists just sit there and grow big, right? 做大，sit and grow big. 我不知道这怎么，我们中文为什么翻成做大？Okay, so anyway, he has a bad name in our history book because, it's almost like the nationalists lost mainland China because of him. But he will always be remembered as the most positive force behind the Marshall Plan, 马歇尔计划, in Europe. Okay, so that's Truman Doctrine in 1947. Sorry, we have to go back. Then comes Eisenhower Doctrine. Okay, Eisenhower Doctrine is also about the Middle East. Okay, again, he felt at the time in 1957 he said any Middle Eastern countries, if under threat, from communist or from another country, United States will send economic assistance as well as military forces in intervention. Okay, so again, okay, United States is going to help. We call territorial integrity. I hate that name, territorial integrity. What is it? Territorial integrity. This is what Obama said to China. United States will respect the territorial integrity of China. 领土完整, territorial integrity. Okay, I think I give you some of the word anti-disestablishmentarianism, but I'll give you a shorter one. Territoriality. What does that mean? Extra territoriality. Okay, another word you can impress your girlfriend. Okay. You say, actually, I'm under this extraterritoriality. What does that mean? In Treaty of Nanjing, we started this idea called 领事裁判权. What does that mean? 领事裁判权. I think when I was a junior high school, I just recite 领事裁判权. I don't know what it means. I didn't know at all. 就是把它背下来嘛，领事裁判权. Oh. What does that mean? Means foreigners, diplomats in your country will have immunity. They are not under your country's law. Okay? So whenever, okay, you get married, you go to stay with your parents-in-law. 你跟公婆住的时候，特别女孩子 okay, girls remember. You said, your mother-in-law said, well, I expect you to wash the dishes. But you said, no, I have extraterritoriality here. 我有治外法权, I follow my rule at home. I don't wash the dishes. My husband did. Your son did it. Okay? So I don't do it at your place as well. Okay? Extraterritoriality. But territorial integrity, very important in Eisenhower's view, especially in the Middle East. Okay, they can request aid and in their fight against communism. Okay, so the very important thing, I think his idea, his concentration at the time was places like Lebanon, places like Israel, worrying about the threat. So Eisenhower doctrine, also Middle East. Kennedy, when he became president, also support anti-communism. So his doctrine is also being considered as, he doesn't have a announced doctrine, but people look at him, he's also trying to reverse, especially if you look at the Bay of Pigs. So since that time, Eisenhower, Truman, Eisenhower, and then Kennedy, almost like every president needs to come up with a doctrine. So 门罗主义, 杜鲁门主义, right? 艾森豪主义, and then we have 甘乃迪主义 and 詹森主义. Do we have 陈水扁主义? I don't think so. I don't know why. We have so many people who were educated in the United States and didn't help our president to leave any kind of legacy. 你不会觉得很可惜吗? Don't you feel a little like if you were the president, you left with some kind of legacy, 政治遗产. Say, hey, 李登辉主义. It's not. We have 孙中山主义, right? 毛泽东思想 okay, wow, it's a little bit different, huh? But we don't have 陈水扁主义. Do we have a 马英九主义? We don't know. Okay, he has 2 years left. Okay, to develop something. But then the next one, Johnson. Okay, Johnson is the one I mentioned in 1965. What did he do? Dominican Republic. He sent Marine there. Dominican Republic. Okay. So, and he said, okay, domestic revolution in the Western Hemisphere can no longer be considered an internal affair. Domestic revolution. Okay, so here we have one country turned communist, right? But does not say anything against the United States. Well, it's a local domestic affair, but Johnson said, no, if you turn communist, it's no longer a local affair. It's an international problem. So basically, any kind of communist revolution in Western Hemisphere, like the Cuba did, will be considered a threat, a communist expansionist, or we call expansion of communist dictatorship. So it is an extension of both Kennedy and Eisenhower doctrine. Okay, will not allow the communists to take a foothold. So if we look at the basic tenets after World War II, right? Anti-communism is the most important one to contain. And then each president pronounced a doctrine saying we are going to see that happen. Okay? Nixon doctrine is a little bit different. Nixon became president in 1969. He won the election in 68 because he said, we will end the Vietnam War. Okay? Well, Vietnam War was very unpopular. I think Obama mentioned this is the first war in American history truly divided people. Okay, dividing people. If you go through American war, okay, America is a country love to go to war. Okay, they always, say peace-loving, but do not believe American. American generals, not like Taiwan, we are truly peace-loving. Because our general right now, those who are, 3-star and 4 stars, they have never fought a battle. But they became 3 stars and 4 stars. 台湾是星星满天飞, right? But they never earned that in the battlefield. America, almost every generation of American soldiers went to a war. Start from the very beginning, the Revolutionary War. The War of 1812, the war against the Indians, Native Americans, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. Oh, every, like 15, 20 years, they said, gosh, we haven't been to the battle yet. Okay, find a battle. Okay, so in 1983, only after a few years of Vietnam War, some people said, we have not been tested. So they found a little country called Grenada, okay, or Grenada in Caribbeans, and they sent Marine there. So Americans love to fight war, but Nixon knew it was very unpopular in the Vietnam War in the United States. So his doctrine is a little bit different. He said, hey, maybe the allies, American allies, need to take care of their own military defense. Okay, he was talking about Japan at the time. Some people call this Guam Doctrine in 1969. And also, he argued that, you can have a partnership with the United States and then pursue peace, in your pursuit of peace. Example, there was a term under Nixon, we call the Vietnamization of Vietnam War. In Chinese, we translate it as 越战越南化. Okay, which means what? You are supposed to take care of your own war. I mean, it's not just American soldiers die. How many of you knew about this one? The American Vietnam War Memorial. 越战纪念碑有听过没有? Actually designed by a Chinese American. So, gosh, we have to know. She is like, when she designed that, Ma Ya-ling, she was only your age. She was, I think, 23. She graduated from Yale University, design, so she designed this monument here. And then having all the soldiers who died in Vietnam War, their name being, engraved there. Altogether about some 50,000. 56,000 多, I think 56,000 American died. So Nixon looked at the casualty in Vietnam War, saying, "Hey, Vietnamese, you take up your responsibility." Sounds similar because Obama just said something last week. Okay, I don't know how to retranslate the Afghanization of Afghanistan War. 阿富汗战争阿富汗化. Okay, because what he's saying that, yeah, we were going to send 30,000 more soldiers to Afghanistan, but after help you to train local forces, military and police to help you to learn how to defend yourself, then a year later we will withdraw. Wow, 去度假了，1年就回来了。Okay, so that's his promise. He said, oh, those 30,000. We will send him to stabilize Afghanistan, and then after that we will withdraw. Okay. If we look at Obama's announcement, sounds so familiar like 2 years ago. We have Bush, right, increasing forces in Iraq, called surge. Oh, I love that word, surge. 征兵. So Obama is doing the same thing. Both are doing similar things like Nixon did during the Vietnam War, right? Increasing more forces. Nixon did 2 things: increasing the bombing of North Vietnam, and also went into Cambodia. Here you have a Vietnam War, and Nixon went into Cambodia. Saying why? Because the North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, Viet Cong, came through Cambodia and attacking South Vietnam. So he moved. It's almost like, in order to gain peace, you have to expand war. Obama is going to Oslo, I think, tomorrow to get the Nobel Peace Prize. But people will say, wait a second. Right before he went to receive this Peace Prize, he increased military to Afghanistan. Strange, huh? But he said, oh, my purpose is to gain peace. It's almost like, okay, shut up. Okay, yeah, we have peace now, right? Shut up. I hit someone and saying, well, finally we have peace. Okay, so you increase that. So it's Nixon doctrine is saying, countries, partners, allies, please take up all your responsibility. Okay, continue to do that. We always have this debate since 1969, because how many countries in Asia trust Japan to take up its defense responsibility? Saying, ooh, Japan. Americans said, well, can we withdraw our troops? But other Asian countries said, no. Your troops in Japan probably will help to ensure that Japan will not become militarized again. People worry about the rearmament of Japan. So that's one. And Korea, United States also said South Korea should take on more responsibility, reducing the numbers as well. Also, United States, the reason in 1969 is truly after a decade of Vietnam War, America is truly having problem meeting the commitment. Okay, Ford. Some of you might have heard of this president, but he only served 2.5 years. He was the first non-elected president in the United States history. Right? He was the vice president appointed by Nixon because Nixon's vice president was involved in a corruption case. He resigned. So Ford became vice president, and then Nixon was involved in Watergate, and Nixon resigned. So Ford became president. Okay. Last time we talked about the American, the 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution. In 1967, almost like foresaw what happened. 1967, they passed this constitutional amendment saying if vice president's post is vacant, you can fill someone there. Before, we discussed that. American president have their vice president either die in office or the vice president became president but without a vice president. But after 1967, you can appoint a vice president, and then somehow it's almost like a prophecy. 预言成功. A few years later, the president also resigned. So vice president became president for only a few years. Unfortunately for Ford, right? He became president in 74, and 75, Vietnam fell. South Vietnam fell under communism. So Ford cannot do anything because that was the policy of Nixon. But Ford did mention something which is not happy, especially not just in Latin America, but he was not happy with Cuba involvement in Africa. 1975, Angola. This country, Angola, became independent from Portugal. Okay, and immediately you have the pro-communist forces and the pro-West forces fighting. So Americans supporting one group and Soviet Union and Cuba supporting the other group. So Ford Doctrine basically talk about trying to stop the Cuban troops, Cuban forces going into Africa. Okay, Cuba dared not to challenge any countries in Western Hemisphere because America said this is my backyard, right? Even if Cuba, the first and the only communist country in Western Hemisphere, United States will not tolerate another one. So was involved, for example, in Dominican Republic and later also in Nicaragua, in El Salvador, but they will not allow Cuba also to expand into Africa as well. So this is the doctrine of Ford, saying we want to take appropriate action against Castro or Cuba's intervention in Western Hemisphere. Okay, again, Cuba was involved in Mozambique, in Angola, in Africa, not in Western Hemisphere, not in Latin America yet. But United States almost like pre-warned. Ford said, okay, what are you doing? Okay, you're intervening in Angola, but I'm going to warn you, you cannot intervene in Western Hemisphere. So it's about Latin America. That's Ford Doctrine. And then Carter King. Okay, Carter in 1970 I'm sorry, it's okay, 1980, 1979, but the doctrine was basically in 1980, the very beginning of 1980, in his, we call it the State of Union address. American president every January will give a State of Union address. 中文该怎么翻译？国事报告 ，OK? Every 联邦国事报告 every January. So in responding to what happened in 1979. So what happened in 79, 30 years ago? First, there was a Iran revolution, okay, and there were Americans taken hostages. And then there was this Afghanistan being invaded by Soviet Union. Okay. And thank God for Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Why? Anyone know why we need to be grateful of Soviet Russian invasion of 阿富汗？我们为什么在台湾要感激苏联1979年入侵阿富汗？ Very difficult to figure out. Okay, I'll give you a few clues. First, because of Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, Western countries boycotted the Olympic game of 1980 held in Moscow. Okay, Taiwan didn't go. Okay, Moscow, right? 莫斯科奥运1980年 boycott, bigger, right? So 1984, where was the Olympic game held? Los Angeles in the United States. So all the Eastern Bloc countries said, you boycott me, 1980, we will boycott you in 1984. So the East German, the Bulgarian, the Russians didn't go to the 1984 Olympic game. Thank God they didn't go because our weightlifting won a bronze. 因为东欧都没有去，所以我们那个举重选手拿了一个铜牌。OK， 所以要谢谢苏联啊，当初入侵阿富汗，不然我们这还没有这样一个铜牌。有没有太扯一点？ But I think it's related. Okay, I have to say it's related. Okay, so Carter, 1980, responding to Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, Iran became radical. So he was announcing that United States will use military forces, especially because of the Iran situation, to protect American national interests in the Persian Gulf, okay, because of the oil. And especially 1980, right after Iran revolution, Iran went on a war with Iraq, you know, for almost a decade, for more than 7 years. So this doctrine is also to deter the Soviet Union from seeking we call hegemony. Remember that word, hegemony. The what? Hegemony, 霸权, okay, in the Persian Gulf area. If Soviet Union is willing to come out to Afghanistan, maybe, you know, I will also move to the Middle East. So this is Carter saying Persian Gulf is American national interest. Okay, and then after this we have Ronald Reagan as president. Reagan is the president who loved containment, who loved to have arms race with Soviet Union. Also talk about SDI. What is SDI? Strategic Defense Initiative. How do you, there's an A here. Where? Here? Is it here? Okay. So what is this SDI? People said that's just Star Wars. Okay. Anyone remember when was the first episode of Star Wars? Which year? You know, Princess Leia, Han Solo came about. If my memory serves me right, I think it was 1977. Okay. And then Darth Vader, came around, right? How many of you watch this? You don't watch Star Wars at all? 你们都不看星际大战的啊? Wow. Your generation, I don't know, Z or something. Anyway, there is this called shield in the Star Wars movie, right? So you cannot, if you raise the shield, you can intercept all the missile. So Reagan said he's going to build a shield to intercept any kind of incoming Russian missile. 我们有没有做这种看不到的网？然后所有飞弹打来都被弹回去？没有，台湾没有做。I thought we have one in 内湖，没有吗？我们没有，内湖不是听说有飞弹防御系统 in Taiwan? No. Okay, SDI, that's Star War Defense. So Reagan did a lot of that against Soviet Union, and Reagan also believed, which they call in the book also mentioned the missile gap. Starting from the 1960s, Soviet Union always had more missiles than the United States, and United States was involved in what we call arms race, 不是手臂赛跑，军备竞赛。Okay, so United States said there is a gap between United States and Soviet Union. We have fewer missiles than Soviet Union, right? We call the missile gap. Okay. How about Taiwan? Do we also have a missile gap with China? So should we produce more missiles in Taiwan so we can bridge 缩短差距? There are more than 1,000 missiles aiming at Taiwan right now, right? Why don't we develop 2,000 aiming at China, surpassing China's missile? Or at least we have 800, so that China will think twice before they fire missile. Because they would say, well, if we fire missiles, maybe we cannot destroy all the missiles in Taiwan, and then Taiwan can fight back. Remember, we have our prime minister said one time said, if China attack Taiwan, we will send missile to Shanghai. Oh, Taiwan 很勇的, right? We can also send missile to Shanghai as well. So missile gap. Reagan is trying to do that, but the real Reagan doctrine, again, is dealing with the spread, the rising or the power of Soviet Union. So when he was president, during the final years of the Cold War, this doctrine is trying to oppose or almost like meet Soviet influence everywhere in the world. If you're powerful in Africa, we will try to stop you in Africa. If you're, penetrating into the Middle East, we will meet you there. Okay, so that's Reagan's trying to stop Soviet expansion. And we talk about containment, but there's also a policy throughout the United States. Containment is passive, but if you want to covert action to destroy some of those communist government, they call rollback. Do you understand what is rollback? 滚回去. Okay? So like, oh, communist is almost to Taiwan. Right now, Americans support the 7th Fleet patrolling Taiwan Strait. And then maybe with Taiwan's help, we can roll back the communists to Fujian. And then, Jiangxi, Anhui, right? No, it didn't happen. I'm sorry. But roll back is just roll them back. Okay, this is what Reagan is trying to do. Some people, conservative people, today still give Reagan credit, saying he involved in an armed race with Soviet Union, and Soviet Union basically collapsed because they don't have the economy like the United States to involve in this arms race. Okay, we will come back to look at other doctrines. Okay. You hear? Okay, in Obama's book, Chapter 8, The World Beyond Our Borders, right? Talk about his experience in Indonesia, and he raised few names here. Who is Sukarno? Sukarno. Sukarno. Who is Sukarno? Did you find the name? Yeah, so who is he? Yeah, but can you explain? You find him, but don't you think we should know something about our neighbor, very close, right? We have so many Indonesians in Taiwan as well. If Obama knew about Indonesia, don't you think we should know more? So who is Sukarno? Have you heard of the recent, the last president of Indonesia, Megawati? Megawati, 有听过吗？没听过。Gosh, we don't know anything about our neighbor. But Sukarno, who is Sukarno? According to the book, can you give me something? Communist Party. Well, he was the first president of Indonesia. Okay, basically very easy, but he is a left wing. Okay, so he also not just left wing, but also he support something we call non-aligned movement. NAM 不结盟运动 non-aligned movement means we are not going to be associated with the West, but they do not want to join the Soviet Union, the Soviet bloc, against the United States. They call non-aligned movement. This is a big movement. Later, we will find a lot of third world countries want to be part of this. Almost like neutrality, neutral. Almost like, also, in addition to non-aligned movement, today we call Group of 77, mostly developing country, being part of this. So Sukarno, the United States said, oh, you're not going to be part of our camp. 你不在我们阵营. So we will support someone who will get rid of you. So Sukarno was replaced by Suharto. Strangely, kind of rhyme, huh? Sukarno, Suharto, you know, Su-A-O. 要押韵啊. So that you can become And so that's a typical example. And Obama said in the book, hey, we didn't know what happened in Indonesia. My mom didn't know there was this kind of conspiracy was involved. Otherwise, she would not go. Okay, but she went. They have no idea. There was no report about this. So they went to. So this is an example of Suharto Soekarno, Indonesia, part of this anti-communist. And Suharto is a very good anti-communist general. So Americans continue to support him. For more than 30 years, he was in office. And Professor Yan just loved those people who stay longer in office, right? Because I don't have to remember another name. Professor Yan loves dictatorship. I love dictators. I love the dictator that can live real long. So I don't have to remember name. Especially I'm getting older, I cannot remember all the names. 年纪越大，记名字越来越难。所以感谢独裁者，让我少记一些名字。Okay? Democracy is bad for professors. 民主政治对教授很糟糕。New election keep coming, and then new people. One time, for example, as a specialist in American politics, I remember 100 senators of the United States and 435 congressmen. And then in 1994, the Republicans said, we're going to get rid of all the old guard. And they have a Republican revolution in 1994. They got rid of about 60, and then another 40 some retired. Suddenly 100 turned over, which has never happened in American history. And after that, I cannot remember everyone. My credit, my ability has totally been destroyed by that one election. Okay, so here, Sukarno replaced by Suharto was another example of Obama's own experience of witnessing American covert action against pro-communist third world leader. Okay, that's one, right? Here, and also he mentioned Obama's book talk about Nicaragua. We have the Sandinista, which is a guerrilla forces, anti-capitalist, anti-West rebel groups. In 1979, Sandinista came to power, overthrowing the American-supported dictator called Somoza, Anastasio. Is this a Z or what? Anastasio? Anastasio Z. Okay. Anastasio Somoza. Right? Somoza family, I also love them. The family ruled Nicaragua over 50 years. Okay, so you don't have to remember a new name. But he was overthrown in 1979, and the United States said, wow, another country like Cuba, right? So Reagan began to support, we call the anti-Sandinista forces. They call Contra. So much so, Americans even put mines in Nicaragua's harbor. Okay? So that almost like a blockade. 美国用水雷埋在尼加拉瓜海港外面，算是 blockade。中文怎么讲？封锁啊。Okay. So you can see how bad it is. And finally, Sandinista was democratically elected and then lost in an election and willing to hand out power. And now the guy, Ortega, the first Sandinista president, also is back to power through election. But this just shows you they will do something like this. Reagan did in Nicaragua, in El Salvador as well, supporting the right-wing government notorious for their death squad. Death squad 中文该怎么翻译？暗杀团，中文好吗？暗杀团，我只听到贵妇团，还没听过暗杀团。我们现在都是还有什么团？采购团、暗杀团，有暗杀团这样子的吗 ？Squad 中文怎么翻译？一组人，刽子手，暗杀刽子手不好听。Death squad. Okay. United States also supported Chilean. We mentioned that Pinochet government, and the most famous quote again from Kissinger is, "United States would not sit on the sideline and watch a country turn communist because of the irresponsibility of the people." 美国不会坐视不管，看一个国家因为人民不负责任变成共产国家。Okay, it's like, what's wrong with you people? Okay, if you're so stupid to elect a communist leader, we will help you overthrow. We will educate you that you should not. Okay, so that's America in the 70s and 80s. But Reagan, people gave him credit because some 20-some years ago, before the fall of Berlin Wall, he talked about this, and he mentioned this to Gorbachev. He said, tear down the wall. He asked him, and eventually collapsed. So people gave him credit, but I'm not sure I should give him credit. But that's Reagan. Okay, and then after Reagan, we actually have another Bush, right? But Bush didn't come up with a particular doctrine. So today, if you go ask people about Bush doctrine, nobody will think about his father. Everybody think about, George W. Bush. But before Bush, we have Clinton. So Clinton's doctrine was very easy. Again, it was also like very much like dealing with the third world, but this doctrine was pronounced almost like in 1999, that when he talked about after his visit to Africa, especially after he witnessed what happened to Rwanda, the genocide, and he raised two words called never again. Okay, never again means the United States probably would not sit on the sideline and watch, this troublesome genocide taking place. Okay, never again. But then we have problem throughout 1990s because, hey, Clinton, Bush witnessed the early collapse of the Soviet Union, but not a lot of major wars. Clinton faced situation in former Yugoslavia, like all these former Yugoslavian republics wanted to become independent. And Soviet Union allowed every country to become independent. Yugoslavia say, no, you're my brother. Don't go. Okay, if you want to go, I'm sorry, I have to kill you. So Bosnia had a difficult time trying to become independent. Somehow Serbia, Yugoslavia under Serbian leadership allowed Croatia, Slovenia to become independent, also Macedonia. But Bosnia, no. Why not Bosnia? Because Bosnia has a lot of Serbs, and also Bosnia has a lot of. How do we separate Bosnian from Croatian or from Serbian? Just the religion. Okay, they are all Slavic people, but Bosnians are Muslim under Turkish rule long time ago, and Serbians are Orthodox, and Croatians are Catholics. So you have different religion. But Bosnia is a case. Eventually, NATO intervened. Okay. Then people ask, it's like, why would NATO or United States intervene in Bosnia, not in Rwanda? Okay. And later, another Serbian Republic, okay, not Yugoslavian Republic. You have to distinguish the two. Huh? Yugoslavia has what? Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia. Those are the 6 republics of Yugoslavia. But Serbia itself also has local republics like Kosovo, also want independence. And again, Serbia would not allow that to happen, so there was a war. And that's where you have a lot of mass killings. You have the former Yugoslavian leader, Milosevic, was on trial. So United States did try to stop massacre in Bosnia, but not doing anything in Rwanda. Okay, so people said that's what we call racism. You know, African being killed, but you know, African, who cares, right? Oh, Europeans, no. Europeans are more important, so we have to stop. Okay, so a lot of African fell. That's not right. So when Clinton went to Africa later in 1998, he said never again. You know, after, you know, in Taiwan you go to a museum, what do you see in display? Books, artifacts, potteries, right? 我们去博物馆是看艺术展览。你到卢旺达博物馆一去看，哦，全部都是骷髅 right? Skull after skull. Okay, that's where you want to visit the genocide place, right? 摆得好好的，这个头列的比较不一样，你去研究吗？ So that's pretty sad, right? For American not doing anything. So Clinton in 1999 said, this is what he said. Okay, he said, it's easy to say that we really have no interest in who lives in this or that valley in Bosnia, or who owns a strip of land in the Horn of Africa, that's Somalia area, or some pieces of earth by the river, Jordan River, that's in Israel. But the true measure of our interest, American interest, in, you know, is not how small or distant these places are. Okay, American interest, like Carter said, oh, Persian Gulf. Of course, Persian Gulf, because it supplies American oil, right? But Clinton said, no, not just Bosnia, not just, you know, in Israel, but also in small places in Africa as well. Okay, you want places where you have trouble pronouncing the names, right? Like Hariyanabana, or this Rwanda president, which you cannot pronounce. So those are the places you still need to care. This is where American interests are at stake. This is what Clinton said. So he's going to help to support. So more, again, internationalism in American foreign policy, not just based on geopolitical interests. Before, anti-communism, containment, even Carter as a Democrat with idealism, he still considered Persian Gulf national interest. Okay, here, when America is willing to intervene in places where America has no business in, no geopolitical interest, and also hardly can pronounce the name, that's where American value should be. Okay, this is Clinton. But question here, after 1999, I mean, it's like, thank you for reminding me, but hey, within a year, you're going to step down. That's so shallow, don't you think? It's like, you know, Chen Shui-bian, right before, you know, his term is over, say, oh, I'm sorry, we cannot pursue this Taiwan independence. Like, oh, for 7 years you cheated us, right? And then the last year you said, oh, I found out, we really cannot do this thing. Okay, why don't you tell us earlier? So the same thing with Clinton. He didn't do anything. He was the one who called back the troops from Somalia. Some of you have watched that movie, Black Hawk Down, 黑鹰计划, right? United States disaster. But if you are for humanitarian intervention, you should stay around. Now people begin to question, like Kosovo, American try to support. Again, it's in Europe. Why didn't American do anything to help Sierra Leone in Africa? Or most recently, where? Darfur, right? In Sudan. Another genocide. Obama, how about you? Darfur is not too far from Kenya. I mean, you're African American. Don't you think you should stop the genocide there? Right? So that's almost like Clinton's doctrine. And Clinton basically believe if there is genocide, America should intervene. Okay, it's not talking about anti-communism, but if genocide took place, America should intervene. Okay. So, Yugoslavian war, was that genocide? Some people said yes, because what do we call? We don't call genocide in Bosnia. We don't call massacre in Bosnia. What do we call? We call ethnic cleansing, 种族清洗. Like, oh, you're not pure. Here, we need to get rid of you. It's almost like Hitler during World War II, right? Get rid of people who are not Aryan, 雅利安人. Okay, so here, ethnic cleansing is the word. So, America support Kosovo there because it was ethnic cleansing in Bosnia, in Kosovo, by Yugoslavia and by Serbia. So that's how you can justify intervention. When Bush came to power, I think before he can develop a coherent Bush doctrine, okay, you have the 911. Only 9 months into his office, into his term, you have the 911. So Bush started this, what do we call? What? What is what? GWOT. George Washington or Truman? No. Oh, what is it? GWOT. Global War on Terrorism. 什么全球反恐战争, right? So that's Bush started this, and basically America has the right under Bush doctrine. He said America has the right to secure itself from countries that harbor, means allow the terrorists or give terrorists haven. We call 避难所, right? Harbor terrorists or help the terrorists, which American can go in to attack those countries that harbor terrorists, which threaten the American security. So that's how you can go to where? Afghanistan. Because Afghanistan is where the Osama bin Laden. Okay. I don't know why American can elect someone who rhymes with a terrorist. Huh? Remember Obama in the very beginning of the book, he said, wow, 9/11, people said, sorry, bye-bye, your political career is over. It's almost like in Taiwan, will we elect a person whose name is Wu Jintao? If someone is Wu Jintao in Taiwan, he said, hey, I want to run for president. People say, wait a second, Wu Jintao? No. It's 太像胡锦涛, right? So Obama, Osama. But Americans somehow elect Obama. Okay? So Osama here is hidden in Afghanistan. So Bush can go in there and pursue, justify the invasion of Afghanistan. But also, what about invasion of Iraq? Saying, well, Saddam Hussein also harbor means keep them safe, keep the terrorists safe in Iraq. Found out, no, actually the terrorists didn't trust Saddam Hussein, right? And we found out that as well, everybody knew later, that out of all those suicide bombing, or all those pilots who drove the plane and hit the World Trade Centers, most of them are what nationality? Hey, out of the 20, not a single Iraqi. Most of them are Saudi. Bin Laden is a Saudi Arabian. So why don't Americans just went into Saudi Arabia? Bush lists all the reasons for attacking Iraq, like it's not democratic, violation of human rights. Wow, exactly the same like Saudi Arabia, right? But Saudi Arabia, America, and Bush family had a lot of interest in the oil industry, so they allow Saudi to get away with a very conservative and almost like a reactionary power, not liberal democracy at all, but attacking Iraq. So Bush doctrine doesn't apply to Iraq because Iraq didn't harbor terrorists. Okay, only after the American attacked Iraq, and then the terrorists said, "Oh, we have American here, we can attack them." So they all joined. Now they are terrorists in Iraq. Okay, but before 2003, that's not the case. So that's Bush doctrine. And in addition, he also talked about preventive war, preemptive strike, preventive war. Okay, American can involve in preemptive war or preemptive strike. Usually, what do we have? We have, like in Japan, for example, Japan can never involve in any kind of preventive war or preemptive strike because according to the Japanese Constitution, Article number 9, you can only engage in self-defense. But Bush said, wait a second, if we know this guy had a bad intention, why don't we just destroy them first? Okay, before they attack us. That's what we call preventive war or preemptive strikes. That United States can get rid of foreign government that represent a potential or perceived. If you consider them to be bad, you can get rid of them. Like, oh, Saddam Hussein, a threat, get rid of them, right? They can also get rid of other countries right now they perceive as a threat. So that's Bush doctrine. If any country poses a threat to American security, why don't they get rid of the government of Canada? Also a threat to the United States, right? Because Canada is so lenient in terms of controlling its border. Canada not doing very well controlling the border. So a lot of terrorists will go to Canada first, and then through Canada come into the United States. So United States should get rid of the Canadian government, because the Canadian government is an ally, almost like an unwilling ally, but it's an ally of terrorists. But United States didn't do it. So that's one. And also United States, even that threat is not immediate, but a long term you can also change. So America was involved in what we call regime change. 改造政权啊。Regime change. Change the government. And Bush doctrine also means preventive war, preemptive strike, change regime by America unilaterally. So we have this unilateralism. 美国什么单边主义 If I think something wrong, I will do it. Okay, that's Bush. So that was, I think, being formulated in the first, okay, if we talk about Bush doctrine, I think probably was formulated at the end of 2001 and the beginning of 2002, but continued to be applied, in different places, including Iraq, okay, and now Obama, okay, question, first of all, does Obama or has Obama made a Obama doctrine? Obama doctrine. We haven't seen that yet, but some people say, well, if you look at Obama, some of the speech, maybe especially earlier this year when he announced he is trying to withdraw forces from American forces from Iraq, you can see a foreign policy initiative by Obama can be considered as Obama doctrine, okay, especially in terms of U.S. forces. So what does Obama doctrine mean here? First of all, Obama does not believe you can depend on military force only. You want to achieve your foreign policy goal or objectives, but relying on military forces cannot do the job. Okay, there's more than just military. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the military action should not be the first but the last resort. Okay, when you want to use military, you should use other means first, possible, and then when you try to use military, okay. So the first one is military is not the only solution. Secondly, military should be force should be used only as the last resort. Thirdly, if you really want to use military as the last resort, consult with your ally and friends. Okay? Saying, are you going to support us? You have to have a broad support. Okay? This is what Obama said right now, last week about Afghanistan. He said, hey, it's different from Vietnam. Vietnam, we were all alone. But in Afghanistan, you have some NATO countries going to help us. So Americans sent how many troops, additional troops this time? Obama announced last week, 30,000, right? 3万人. Now, Great Britain said, yeah, we're going to help you. We're going to increase 500. But Great Britain from 9,500 to 10,000, that's still, 从4位数变成5位数. That's good. Okay? Other countries have, so finally we heard the most recent one, NATO country going to contribute altogether about 5,000. So what do we say? it's a multilateral effort. It's a collective security. Now, but Obama also got history wrong as well. During Vietnam War, United States was not alone. There are other countries also fighting the Viet Cong for the United States as well. Which country, for example? Taiwan? No, we didn't. No, we didn't. But we provide, Taichung, other places for American soldiers to come and have a vacation here in Taiwan, and then they go back to fight, right? 有没有贡献？我们有台湾是美军休假来台湾，然后在台湾享受完了之后，重新得力，再回到越南打仗。So I think we are part of the, supporting Vietnam War. Okay, but Korean actually sent forces to South Vietnam. 南韩有派军队去打过，所以 not alone. Okay, Australia also supported the United States. Taiwan, I think they came and they spent some money here. Why don't we have another war so it help our economy? Japan got out of the World War II recession because of the Korean War. And then Vietnam War helped Taiwan. We need another war in Philippines. So there were, a lot of soldiers, and then would take the vacation in Taiwan, spend their valuable U.S. dollar here. Okay, so that's Obama's doctrine. Remember, military is not the only solution. Okay, you have to add other means. Secondly, when you use military, the last resort, the last choice. Even if you use it, you have to consult with your friends and allies. Like NATO in Afghanistan, okay, when United States was attacked by terrorists in 2001, what happened? All the NATO countries, remember Obama used a French term there. What do we call that word, that phrase in his book? The French even support American. The French do not like American. But they support the American after September 11. They said what? Today we are all Americans. Huh? When you are attacked, even the French said we care about you. So NATO, Afghanistan, multilateral coalition. But in 2003, the German, the French, they don't support Bush in Iraq. And I organized in my institute a conference right before American invasion of Iraq. We invited the German representative to Taiwan, and other diplomats coming, and we also invite AIT people to explain why America want to fight against Iraq. And the AIT didn't show up. They didn't send anyone. They sent me a tape of Secretary of State Colin Powell's address in the United Nations. 就寄一个国务卿的这个录影带，说对announce that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. The worst thing about that is they send me a VHS tape. Now, how many places you can put that tape there in the school? I mean, where do you find? Do you still have the facility here? 清华还可以放那个 VHS 的 tape 吗？ They send me that. Okay. Now, I love the German ambassador to Taiwan or representative. He said, we are against Americans' use force in Iraq. We have to tell the American not to do this because we are Americans' friends. Friends will tell friends, the truth. So, but the Americans will not listen. Okay, so what do we call Iraqi war? Americans said, okay, if we don't have the coalition like Afghanistan, we'll have people we call coalition of the willing. 愿意跟我们结合就结合，无所谓。Okay, coalition of the willing. 联军啊。Okay, so and America also attacked countries like Germany and France, saying, "Oh, you're the old Europe. You know, you're so stubborn. You don't know what's going on." And we love the new Europe, like countries like Poland, countries like Denmark. They will support us. That's how Bush divide, like black or white, right? Either you are with us or you're against us. I love Bush. Very clear. You know, either you're with me or you're against me. But Obama has a different approach, right? He said Americans also need to go to war with clearly defined goal. What is your objective? Okay. You also have to learn, you know, to communicate with the people frankly. Means you have to tell people the truth. What's going on? Are you going to? Can you win the war? But American politicians always lie to people. From the Vietnam War, right? The American commander in Vietnam said, "Oh, you know, only give me 50,000, you know, troops more. Well, we're going to wipe out the Viet Cong. You know, just keep adding, and the Viet Cong is still there." Okay, Obama at least this time is saying in Afghanistan, is saying, yeah, you know, we are going to do the 3D, 3D 不是 3D 什么动画 to he said, you know, to dismantle, okay, 拆毁, okay, and to defeat Al-Qaeda, but not like Obama, not like Bush. Bush said, we're going to pursue all the terrorists until they are completely wiped out. Okay, Obama is trying to make sure that they cannot become a forces to attack the United States. Obama is not talking about, you know, wiping out every terrorist organization or every terrorist group. So that's more realistic. Obama also considered this GWOT. He changed names. He called Overseas Contingent Operation. Overseas Contingent 海外临时行动 means contingent. Contingent means 临时的 means it's like sometimes it's going to be over. Okay, operations. Overseas contingent operation. So he redefined the goal of terrorist war. So it's not like trying to dismantle or destroy or defeat, you know, but just trying to somehow limit their impact, their forces against the U.S. Okay? And more importantly, I think America also Obama talk about he is not going to impose American values on those countries, like the axis of evil, the outposts of tyranny, the rogue states. You remember of those? America will not seek regime change. Okay, we will tell you we like democracies, but if you're not democracy, fine. We still will tell you that we prefer democracy, but we're not going to send someone to overthrow the dictator. Okay, this is quite different. Reagan and Bush involved in this regime change. Okay. George Bush and Ronald Reagan. George Bush should be the son of Ronald Reagan, not his father. His father is more internationalist, more multilateral, but you know he is more like Reagan's son, pursuing unilateral policy, and Obama again trying to change. So if we look at from Carter, Clinton, and you know the Bush in between, and then Obama, these are the internationalists trying to work with the ally, believing in international organization Okay, the most recent, what's happening right now in Copenhagen, the climate change conference, right? In Copenhagen, 大家有在 follow 有在看吗？啊，这个气候变迁会议 ，right? Again, United States didn't assign but didn't ratify the Kyoto Protocol. Why? 美国没有通过，没有正式批准京都议定书。Why? Any reason for America? Okay, first of all, of course, that's a European ideas, right? There's some not American ideas, so what should we sign? But more importantly, in the Kyoto Protocol, Americans said it's not fair because there is no cap on developing countries. But Europeans said, hey, we all developed country, we have abused the system, the earth the longest time, so we should be the first one to reduce our carbon. The amount of carbon they produce in the developed world. But America said, hey, China didn't have a cap, so I'm not going to sign. But Obama this time is going to offer America is going to meet the, some of the reduction of the carbon emission and willing to sign. Maybe this time we will have Americans signing. So that's a change of the unilateral approach of President Bush and believing America should be part of the international community and sign treaties, join the international organization. And that's the multilateral approach of Obama. And there's no regime change, no imposing your own value or system on other countries that are different from you. But you're still going to point out the difference. Okay, I think this is what happening. Please finish reading that chapter because there's so many names and so many different countries and events. I'm hoping that you can follow. If you don't know those story behind all those names, check with me next week as well. We'll try to go through and let you understand Obama's view, especially of what happened. I mean, he almost like wanted to apologize for what the American did during this anti-communist containment period. Okay, I think in Taiwan we have the same thing, right? We use anti-communism as a way of suppressing freedom of speech. For a long time, we have the White Terror, all in the great name of anti-communism. 反共底下什么都可以做 right? 匪谍就在你身边 Okay, that's always good. America went through that McCarthyism and everything. Okay, we'll stop here and see you next week.